So I'll now just ask Richard then to elaborate a bit more on what's been going on since our last AGM in February 2019.
Thank you, David. For everybody on the call, actually it's been an incredibly busy 2 years. What I would like to say is, first of all, thank you for all attending. It's really important that people are part of this journey and what we do, and this decision making process that we're all part of. And similarly, thank you to the Neighbourhood Forum team of the steering group, all of the members that joined the focus groups, which I'll come on to in a little while. Without the work that these teams have done, we wouldn't be where we were today with the amount of detail we have. We had a comment from a stakeholder only 2 days ago who commented on how detailed, how professional, how involved the Neighbourhood Forum is as Chetwynd, and they deal with neighbourhood forums every day as a planning organisation, and that shows the level of detail and level of work that these guys have done. 2019 was the publication of the draft plan, and we have Graham on the call tonight, and my thanks go to Graham for the timeless effort that Graham put into authoring the plan and the amount of work that was put into getting that together, and all of the background work that went in from the teams. It's a significantly comprehensive plan, as all of the stakeholders have commented upon, professionally put together, significant detail within, into minute detail on a positive angle. You know, at no point have we as a Neighbourhood Forum representing you as the community taken a negative position on what needs to happen. We've taken a positive view to look at what needs to happen on a balanced view, and that culminated in the publishing of the draft plan in early July, with a consultation that followed that. Probably the most significant thing that happened that year is that the original plan for the west of Toton for a Peveril development that was going to happen to a certain degree was shelved on the basis that Peveril decided to sell their land. And that went into the public eye, but probably didn't poignantly go into the public eye, in that the Peveril land was sold, and it was sold to Nottinghamshire County Council in that year. Moving into 2020, a more formalised position in the submittal of the plan, and significant discussions ongoing with major stakeholders. Broxtowe Borough Council, who I personally am thankful to, and I know the forum is thankful to, for the collaborative work relationship we had with them through the previous planning manager, Stephen Saunders, and the continuation, in that they gave us foresight of the local plan. We were very much part of the examination that went through at Broxtowe, and everything that we saw, the neighbourhood plan lines up to. In its roundest possible way, the two documents are very succinct in the way in which they are put together. The work that we've done with Nottinghamshire County Council, with one member in particular who has moved into a different role these days, but he's working with another one of the stakeholders, and he's working with the East Midlands Development Company now. And my thanks go to Richard Carr and to Ken Harrison for joining us this evening to give a little bit more of an insight as to what that's going to be about, and you're going to see that later. But similarly, Midlands Engine through Sir John, the strategic planning group, which we are a constituent member of, and we are asked for our opinion on all of the time, and that opinion is your opinion, not personal opinions. But also the work then that we've done with Homes England and Aberson Young in respect to the barracks and the Chetwynd barracks, which is controlled by the Defence Infrastructure Organisation, and then follow discussions with planning groups of Oxalis, who actually represent Gore Homes and represent the land of Wheatgrass Farm, and the Environmental Partnership, who've done some significant work in the environmental side on the Area Wash Corridor and the Area Wash Valley. The key thing for us in 2020 was the formation of the focus groups. We got into the middle of the pandemic. It was very difficult. We still needed to keep a momentum going. And it was very important that what we did is we took the draft plan in its entirety and started to focus in on how we believed that that could be delivered, so that we could visualize that to the community and start to bring the community along and understanding the plans that go with it. So the formation of the environment team, led by Margaret Crittenden, who's on the call tonight. Margaret and her team, which Norman, who is on the call as well, is part of, with Norman's vast knowledge and experience that he's brought with him over the years, has led us to be at the forefront of what we want to do with the environmental position that we have, and the environment that we want to live in, and green corridors and nature corridors and biodiversity. And it's worth pointing out to everybody on the call, you know, we had HS2 people, we had Severn Trent all contacting our environmental team, asking them for information. We were a professional resource to some very significant organisations. Our infrastructure team, which has been led by Ian Craig, looking very much at overall infrastructure, so looking at active transport of walking and cycling, been very involved with our local MP on the cycling routes that we want to develop, but also the walking routes, looking at what we could do with respect to runs and 5K runs and 10K runs that would sit within the area, but then also looking at what we need to do with regards to transportation as well. We can't ignore the fact that cars are not going to go away. We needed to manage that and look at how we develop that as we move forward, and develop routes that we can actually attain while the development is going on, as this will be a significantly long development. And then finally, the community development led by Stephen Brown. And Stephen's looking at everything from house designs with Mark, who's on the call tonight. They're looking at what we do with house designs, how things could be built in the future, how we could utilize current and new technologies, and create an environment and create a community that we all feel is an even better community to live in than the one we already live in. And we constantly talk about things of the future, you know, the future community building, the current community building the future community, and really binding that all together, that as and when and if the barriers come down on the barracks, let's make sure that's done in the right way, and that we can create a heart in the centre of Toton, and we can retain the heritage of the site and the history of the site that we have from before. We've continued a little bit of a forward look. We've continued that through 2021 with a big focus on the delivery of the plan. Continued strong work with the stakeholders, particularly with the DevCo, with Avison Young and Homes England, and then really focusing on the submission of the plan, the formalised submission and the process that has to go to, with a striving position to get to a referendum in early 22 and an adoption in spring to early summer 2022, so that the neighbourhood plan really has a stake in the ground for everybody that will want to come and get involved from a development point of view, to say these are the things that need to happen moving forward. This isn't a traditional development as we've seen in the past. We want to make this a blueprint for the future and really drive that as we move forward. There are risks. There are identified risks that most of you on this call will be fully aware of. HS2 is an emotive subject at the best of times. Some people are very happy for it to come along. Some people don't want to see it at all. At the moment, we don't know whether it's an approved, a non-approved, a maybe, an if, or what else. But at the moment, we're working along the lines that HS2 would become a part of the development as we move forward. You will have heard me talk previously about the East Midlands Interchange. I personally in the forum sees that interchange as a lot more than just about HS2. A lot of the work going on in the background with Midlands Engine is talking about it being a centre point for travel and a centre point for transportation in the future. The continuing rumours about the barracks and where the barracks will be. Is it closing in 24? Is it 26? Is it 29? Or is it never? At the moment, we don't know. So what we're doing is we're continuing with the plans that we've all put together, and we will continue with those plans until we're told otherwise. And then the final part is Wheatgrass Farm. There's no hiding away from it that Wheatgrass Farm could come forward in the coming months as a potential development site. It's been represented by a planning organisation, and it has had an option on it by its owner with Bloor the builder for many years, and it constantly gets brought forward. And the important thing for us is, if it gets brought forward, how does it get brought forward? How do we deal with any development that would be proposed on that site? How do we deal with the infrastructure and the environmental requirements that would go with it? Rather than just taking the view of no, looking at what that would mean and seeing how that would affect us as we move forward. We know a whole host of the community is very conscious of what may happen there, and are very nervous about what may happen there. But we want to stay in front of all of those groups and keep talking to them to understand exactly what would be the proposal and where it would go to. Our key objective, as it has been from day one, I think of anybody who's on this call that was in the very first meeting, the very first extra general meeting that we had, the only thing, unfortunately, that I promised everybody is that things would change. And that's not often a popular thing. But what we constantly stay focused on is working with the community, working with you. This is your plan. This is your development that will happen in the future. And really looking at what we need to do to make sure that it ends up being what we want to see as the whole community, and the engagement of the community being absolutely key in everything we do moving forward, because things will change. Of that, there is no doubt. Can I tell you that HS2 will happen tomorrow? No, I can't. I can't even tell you that the barracks is going to happen. But what I can tell you is that things will change because of the impetus of the amount of land that is available for development in the future. And what we have to do as a community is make sure that any of that development is done in the right way. For a number of people on the call, they will remember that I've always talked about scales. And it's all about, if we give in one hand, we need to take something back in the other. And what we need to make sure is that we end up living in as good a place, preferably a better place to live than we currently do already. And we deal with some of those transportation issues that we see now. And we deal with any schooling issues that we foresee coming in the future. And we manage those community development program requirements that we have of doctors, surgeries, possibly dentists, and community facilities. So I can tell you from a forum position, that's what the team continues to do. You know, we did see a downtime, shall I say, in the pandemic. But what I will say is that the majority of the forum group was very busy through that time. And actually a number of the stakeholders became very busy in that time once everybody adjusted to where we are. And that's my update, David.
Okay, thank you, Richard. It's probably fair to say that we're still working to the 2024 date